Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan. Suzuki doesn't suck. This is the post-game show after the Montreal Canadiens beat the Dallas Stars 3-1. It was another victory on the road. The Montreal Canadiens now 11-2-1 in their last 13 games. Jacob Dobes is 4-0. He wins the game 3-1, gives up 1 goal on 33 shots. A great outing for Jacob Dobes. The Montreal Canadiens fell behind 1-0 on a goal by Jason Robertson. It was a bit of a turnover by Matheson in the neutral zone that got caught in the defensive zone for a few seconds. Unfortunately, Robertson was left wide open in front of the net. Dobes had no chance, and the Montreal Canadiens fell behind 1-0. Shortly after that, the Montreal Canadiens turned it back with a great pass from Suzuki to Caulfield. Caulfield streaking down the left side, got around the defenseman, found a pass to Slafkovski, who's wide open in front of the net, and he hammered it home to make it 1-1. The rest of the game was back and forth. Montreal Canadiens didn't have one of their best second periods this time. I felt like the first half of the second period, they were definitely having some challenges, but they held on. The score remained 1-1 through the end of the second period. There was a power play at the end of the period that kind of changed the momentum for Montreal. And then in the third period, again, it was back and forth, a very good game. Dallas Stars are a top-tier team. The Canadiens are playing some great hockey. And Alex Newhook scored a goal, a deflection on I guess you can call it a shot by Hutson, a shot directed towards the net. It was definitely a great deflection, a great goal, an important goal to make it 2-1. The Canadiens played a very mature remainder of the game. It was about 8-9 minutes, and they shut down the Dallas Stars. There were definitely some chances. Like I said, Dobes stood on his head on a few great opportunities. There was one where Jack Guy, lost an edge, and a 2-on-1 against Savard, and he made a blocker save, an incredible 2-on-1 save. And then Yoel Armia, who played a great game all the way through, fought hard at the end of the game to get the puck with a few seconds left and put the puck in the empty net. So it was a 3-1 victory by the Montreal Canadiens. A great win, another great win, 11-2-1. They're 1 point behind Boston with a couple games in hand in the wild card. The Canadiens are in the mix. And so, as you can see, we have Stephen Cohen, my guest on this show, and would love your take on the game and any feedback you might have.
Well, I'm, again, pleasantly not surprised, but pleased with the performance of the Canadiens. We have such a good situation now with the goalies. I want to say, and I'm going to say that I predicted this with Dobes. I saw him in Florida in his start. Canadiens continue to play him in tough situations. Imagine, Rick, when he actually starts playing the weaker teams at home. I mean, they're putting him in like really tough situations, and the guy's coming through. Colorado, Florida, Dallas, Washington as well, all on the road. So I'm eager. Or maybe they'll let him play at home this weekend.
For sure. I mean, there's a back-to-back game in New York with New York and Toronto, so they're going to play one of the two games. So he's going to.
They're both at home, right? Those are both at home. Okay, so he'll play one of the games, and hopefully he'll get to start in Detroit. They played Detroit on Tuesday, right? If I'm not mistaken. But listen,
they play Tampa at home on Tuesday.
Okay, so Tampa. Yeah.
It'll probably be on the road in Detroit on Thursday that he'll probably play.
Maybe I'd like him to play in Detroit, actually, to be honest. Give him a little, play. I want to see how he does against a weaker team.
I mean, Detroit is 7-0 or 8-0 right now. They're on a flamer. They're playing good hockey, but the Rangers are too. So it'll be interesting. I mean, listen, you're right. The 4 teams he played are all top tier teams.
Yeah.
He's looked incredible. He doesn't have any nerves. He's on the broadcast. They asked David Savard one word to define Jacob Dobes, and he said gamer, which is, that's what he looks like. He looks like a guy that wants to be. He reminds me of when Steve Penny came in and tried to win the job and win the playoffs for the Montreal Canadiens. He looks a lot like a Patrick Roy, the way his style. So I'm impressed. Listen, I've always had my eye on the kid. The only concern I had was his glove hand. His glove hand looks good. So listen, I'm not worried at all at this point.
So I think he actually looks like a cross between Patrick Roy and, believe it or not, Ken Dryden. So Ken Dryden was tall.
Right.
He stood there, with his stance, putting his hand on his stick, standing at 6'3", 6'4", I think Ken Dryden was. And Dobes is a similar stature. And yes, he plays similar to Patrick Roy. So it's like a combination of the two with his size and
It's a good combination.
Yeah,
It's a good
it's a great
combination.
combination. Our two best goalies ever in the history. Well, I guess minus Carey Price, right? I forgot about
He's
Carey.
pretty good. He was pretty good
Yeah,
too.
he was
Yeah.
pretty
No,
good too. Yeah, but I want to talk about some other players who have been like pleasant surprises over the last couple of games. Kirby Doc, silently again. He didn't. I don't know if he had any points today, but he was a presence today. I thought he played very well. I saw one play. He took the puck straight up the ice, went through the Dallas Stars. Like he bulldozed through them. He's looking like a presence. Alex Newhook is starting to play a little bit of hockey here. Is starting to
there,
catch my eye a
there
little
you
bit.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Stephen
So we'll
Cohen's
see. We'll see.
nemesis.
And I've been a big critic of Alex
You
Newhook.
have. Right.
So, but the last couple of weeks, he's played some decent hockey. He still sometimes I shake my head with some of the plays. Like I know it sounds silly, like a guy who has a head on his shoulders, like Hutson. There was a play where all he had to do is just wait one extra second to go into the zone on a play, and it was an offside. And for me, that's just like a classic. Like you're not seeing the ice. That was in the first period, I think. But in any case, other players that played very well, a lot of defensemen. Alex Carrier, David Savard had a phenomenal game today. Mike Matheson played well today. Lane Hutson, of course, continues to do extremely well. He had a tough second period, I think. At one point, like he turned the puck over a couple of times and was struggling a little bit for like 10 minutes for his shifts within the beginning part of the second period. But all in all, the Canadiens defensemen, Goulet, Carrier. I'm going to leave Jack Guy to the side because he really,
He fought
I
it. He
understand.
fought it a bit in the third period. He fought it a bit in the third period. The only one I'll disagree with, and only because maybe I'm just not the biggest fan, is on Matheson. I mean, I thought Matheson had a really good third period. I thought the second and first period, Matheson he was probably part of the reason why Hutson had a hard time in the second period, in my opinion. There's just a lot of small plays that he just tried things and he was fighting the puck. But listen, the Canadiens played well. You can't fault too many players on this lineup, right? I mean, there's not a player. I mean, other than Pizzetta, I think, who again got another
He
penalty.
got a
I think
penalty. He was brutal again. I mean, I'd rather give the ice time and the opportunity of Pizzetta. I understand Heineman is going to be back in a couple of weeks, and he's got the spot. Call up,
well,
Roy
they will.
or
They
call
will.
up, another
They
kid.
will, right? They
Yeah,
will. But
but
remember, we're
Pizzetta. I mean, it's just like it's a waste of a roster spot, and it's costing us. Like the penalty he took was on a delayed offside. He did like
right.
what is he doing? Like the guy's like brain dead as far as
Yeah.
that play. It's
It-
not very smart hockey.
no,
So
I mean, listen, it was a bit of a brain fart, as you said, but it was a bit of a dive. It didn't look like he hit him that hard, and it was kind of a weak call. But end of the day, yeah, listen, I don't think we're going to see too much of Pizzetta. I think the reason he played these last couple of days, they were on the road. I don't think they were going to fly somebody in from Laval to try to make it, to take his spot. That it wasn't that dramatic. He didn't get a lot of ice time. I'm sure I'll take a look at his stats. But at
yeah,
the end of the
he
day,
didn't
the
play in the
Canadians
third. I
were.
don't think he played. He didn't
Yeah, he
see the
only
ice
played.
in the third period. Yeah,
Yeah, he only had 4 minutes and 31 seconds the whole
right.
game, and he'll probably not see the ice again. He may even get waived. They don't need to waive him; they have a spot, so they can bring somebody up. So we'll see. I think a Davidson or a Waugh will come up, or somebody else. They'll kind of sit on the fourth line. And, they had Kundata
Right.
for a bit. They can bring out Raphael Harvey, Pinard. They have a few players that can come up and play in that position and kind of at least take those minutes and
Right.
play with
I agree.
Evans and Armia. That's what's going to happen. I want to call out one player that had, I thought, his best game of the year. Well, two, Slafkovski. Slafkovski came
Right.
out flying today, and he
Right.
actually turned like it wasn't Suzuki and Caulfield and then some guy forechecking. It looked like three players working
Yeah.
together hand in hand, and definitely in the first half of the game. I would say in the second half he slowed down a little bit, but Caulfield, I mean, that kid came out flying, and he had
Yeah.
opportunities. He didn't score. He got a beautiful assist, but he's just playing some great hockey. And so kudos to Slafkovski, who looked like a top player, which is great. And kudos to Caulfield, who's just continuing to play
And
some
then
solid hockey.
agreed 100%. But let's not also let's talk about two. I think the two stars of this game. This was a defensive fought game. Obviously, star number one was Dobes, kept us in the game in the second period when the Stars started to outplay us in our zone, and Dobes kept us in the game. But Jake Evans and Joel Armia both were phenomenal in the
Mhm.
third period. Their checking style, that's why, it's not always about how many goals you score. It's not always about how it's all about how you forecheck and if you carry the play and be physical with the other team. And at the end of the game, I feel confident now with our goaltending and with Joel Armia and Jake Evans. They put them on. They even called them. They put them on at the last 2 minutes to check against they pulled the goalie to try to equalize the score, and there was a whistle. The Canadians called the timeout so they can put Evans and Armia back on the ice because they were tired. And that gives you an idea of how Martin St. Louis feels about those two. Jake Evans had another breakaway again today on the shorthanded chance. I mean, he's becoming one of the best penalty killers and defensive players in the league. We were missing a guy like Philippe Danault. And Evans is starting to become a better player, in my opinion. And he's young, he's in his prime actually, and good things are going to come. I feel really confident about this group of players. I'm now starting after today's game. I actually don't think I want to trade for anybody. I don't want to, at least I don't want to give up any of our current assets except for Dvorak. He's the only one that I would, if somebody wants him. Like maybe Toronto wants him because they lost a center and they need a guy who potentially a veteran forward that could fill in for Tavares. But what do you think? Do you think
No, I mean,
is there anybody else that you would give up at this point? I mean, the way that we're
no.
playing, I don't think so.
Yeah, I've been saying it all along. I mean, from my perspective, my position has been roll with this team. In other
Yeah.
words, I don't think you're going to get an asset back for a Savard or for a Dvorak that's worth what you're going to give up on this team. I mean, in essence, this team can just roll. Now, Dvorak, if you can get a first, you're not going to. You're going to get like a third or fourth round pick. You don't need that. So at the end of the day, you keep Dvorak, let him, he's a friend of
Right.
Caulfield. It's a good culture in the team.
And Gallagher too.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to re-sign. That's fine. The two players that may re-sign now are Evans and Armia. I think Evans is somebody they're trying to sign. The last I heard, they were offering 14 million for 4 years, which is 3.5 million dollars a year. Evans wants 5 or 6 years, which is the problem. I know you're rolling your eyes, but so that's why you have to remember, right? Like
Yeah.
if he can get 5 or 6 in the market and not pay Quebec taxes, 5 or 6 years, not 5 or 6 million, that might be a challenge for Montreal because they don't want to lock in a player that's 28, 29 years old for 5 or 6 years, maybe. So that's the challenge they have. And then Armia, I think, is the other side of the fence. I think he's being paid too much. Will he take a discount to stay with Montreal and play in the fourth line? He's going to find a spot somewhere in the NHL for a couple $1 million a year. But will he do it with Montreal is the question.
Yeah.
He might get 3 or 4 years
I
somewhere
think
else.
I think it's going to all depend on on if we make the playoffs and if we make a little run in the playoffs. And that's another thing I want to talk about is I said it listen, I'm a glass half full type of person. I'm always very optimistic about everything. And I've been saying it from the beginning of the year. I think the Canadians are going to contend for a playoff spot. I know you were a little bit pessimistic about that. Now we've caught fire a little bit. Um, I know you've mentioned a lot of times we're not ready yet. We're almost there. We're a year away. We're 2 years away, and I'm not a believer in that. I keep saying that we're like a match as soon or like a piece of wood that as soon as we catch fire, this team is going to start playing well because they have a lot of young players that are really talented. And once the chemistry combined with the talent, and there's a couple of key components like Laney, Hutson, and Dobes, the addition of those three players
And Carrier.
and Carrier, agreed, right? But, let's just talk about Dobes is making, I believe, Montembeault play better because he's getting more rest. And he also has to look behind his shoulder at this goalie who's now 4-0, right? And he's the talk of the town. And Montembeault is he's playing for Team Canada or he's representing Canada in the upcoming tournament. And is he the number one goalie? Montembeault is going to have to step up his game. So I think that's a good situation for the Canadians. And then Lane Hutson is getting better every game, even today. I mean, he struggled a little bit defensively, but again, he makes these plays that like he sees the ice so well, and he's skating with such confidence with the puck, and every game he's getting better. So that's number two. And then Patrick Laine didn't have his best game today, but he had a couple of good shifts in the first period. I thought he played a good first period. I think he made a move, like it was pretty good. He went right through the defenseman and had a great chance in the first period, almost popped it in. But if we get like 5 power plays in a game, it's dangerous with Patrick Laney on the left side. He's going to pop in 1 or 2 goals, the way he, with his laser shot from the left side. What are your thoughts?
So listen, I mean, you said a lot there. I think the Montreal Canadiens are currently 1 game out of the playoffs. They're in the mix. I'm looking at this. I was going to try to put it on the screen, but I'm not going to be able to. But the Montreal Canadiens right now have 48 points in 44 games. Yeah. They are 1 point behind the Boston Bruins with a couple games in hand. Columbus Blue Jackets have 50 points, so they're 2 points behind the Columbus Blue Jackets with 1 game in hand. But the Ottawa Senators are tied with them at 48 points in the same amount of games. Detroit has 46 points, so 2 points behind in the same amount of games. Philadelphia has 46 points. Pittsburgh has 44 points. New York Rangers have 43 points and are starting to play some better hockey. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and if you want to put Tampa in the mix, 9 teams for 3 spots. And so the concern I have, I'm not suggesting, and I'll back up a little bit. I thought the Montreal Canadiens would be in the mix like this. Maybe not this close. I thought they'd be more in the Philadelphia spot, like 2 or 3 points behind. They're playing some incredible hockey. Let's be honest. I mean, if they play like this the rest of the year, forget the wild card. They're going to be fighting for a top 3 spot in the Atlantic. They're winning 11 of 14 games. I mean, if they do that for the next 14 games and the next 14 games after that, the Montreal Canadiens are in the playoffs and they're a legitimate team. I'm not saying they can't do it. What I'm saying is they're playing some incredible hockey, but teams go on through ebbs and flows in an NHL season. There might be injuries. There might be other things that cause problems. Listen, I'm a fan. I'd love to see them make the playoffs. I'd be surprised. I didn't call them to make the playoffs. I'm not surprised that they're in the mix. I'm surprised they're playing hockey like this in January and December. That's beyond what I expected. If they continue to play like this, that's the only way they make the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs and they're playing like this, yeah, they can win a series. Will they win the Stanley Cup? I don't know. I mean, I just think that, remember, there's just so many teams out there that have so much more experience in terms of their top talent. But listen, Lane Hutson has surprised us. Caulfield has stepped it up. Suzuki's playing great hockey. Slafkovski looked good today. Like you said, Doc is playing, again, some solid hockey. Right. Lane has that secret weapon. But listen, I'm excited. It's a fun team to watch. I can't say anything. I don't believe the hype that they're a Stanley Cup contender or anything like that. I think they are a chance to make the playoffs, and if they make the playoffs and they're playing this type of hockey, they could win a game. Now, what I think you said correctly, and I'll add to what I'm thinking, and we're gonna cut it a little bit short in a minute, but what I'd say is some of these decisions about players, which they're still about 15 games before the trading deadline. But even if they keep all these players for the rest of the season, decisions that they're going to make for next year is if they make the playoffs, then, as you know, players play differently in the playoffs. You know, you had the Claude Lemieux who would go in the playoffs and be such an important player. In Montreal, Armia and Anderson were such important players in playoffs, right? And so when you get to the playoffs, and if they get to the playoffs, you'll see which players are the players that are playing the kind of hockey that you need. Now, if they win a series, which I'm not saying they can't, then that would kind of dictate who they might keep, who they may not. Again, there's a guy named Demidov in the background, so one guy has to go. There's a guy named Beck who's playing incredible hockey in Laval that is probably going to take Dvorak's spot. There's a guy named Kapanen who's playing good hockey in Sweden, and there's a guy named Mailloux in Laval that's also pretty good. And then don't forget a guy named Jacob Fowler and Michael Hage in the NCAA.
Yeah, I mean, if Dobes continues what he's doing, they found their goalie. I mean, before we go to the predictions, because I know we're gonna cut the show a little bit short. Dobes came into the game with a .959 save percentage, which I know it's 4 games and it's unreal, but think about like what I said at the beginning. He played on the road against Florida, the Avalanche, the Stars, and I forget the other team, and whatnot. Another good team on the road, and He
Washington.
comes in, he played Washington, and now this is the fourth game against the Stars, and his save percentage after today, after a 959 save percentage, is going to go up over 959, and he continues to just play phenomenal hockey. So I mean, I'm not focusing on Fowler or any of the other picks right now that are or prospects. If we find our goalie at the age of, how old is he? 22 years old, 21 years old? Can't be much older than
He's
that, right?
22 or 23. I don't think he's 21. I know he's 22.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a bright future for us if we find a goalie like this. I'll just say this before we go to the predictions. The thing I love about him is the confidence. When he plays, he was a little shaky at the beginning, maybe a little nerves. He gave up the goal was his fault. He gave up a really bad rebound. He made a good save, but he
Right.
knocked the rebound to the left. He
Right.
usually the puck usually sticks into him. But after that, I mean, the confidence that he played with, and I think he gave up a shot that hit the crossbar that should have gone in, but and he got lucky. But the rest of the game, the guy was playing with some serious confidence, and that's the thing that really excites me about him is that he's playing like, yeah, come at me, I'm gonna stop the puck. He's not afraid of anything. So yeah, that's why I'm really excited about Dobes.
Listen, I am too. I mean, listen, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about him. I'm not sold yet 100% that he's the next Patrick Roy. I wish he is. I hope he is. It's a small sample size. The small sample size is amazing. So listen, he looks good. There's a guy named Lucas Dosal in Anaheim that's young like him and maybe a year older. And I see a lot of similarities in terms of the way they kind of stop the puck. Listen, if he could be a number one goalie in a top 10 goalie in the NHL, great for him. There's another guy coming, and that's good. I mean, that's good. Like you said, competition's good. They can use him for trades then if he's not needed potentially. So listen, let's jump into the
Predictions.
predictions. I know you like to do predictions. The Montreal
Yeah.
Canadiens next two games, Saturday and Sunday, are at home. They're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs at home on Saturday. Most likely Montebo will start, maybe not. And then on Sunday, New York Rangers at home. What do you like?
Yeah, so for sure, Monty's playing on Saturday. It would make complete sense since you want to give Dobes a little bit of rest. Monte is well rested. Now he's got to look over his shoulders. So Saturday, is it a night game against Toronto?
Yeah, it's a 7
Yeah.
p.m. start against
Yeah,
Toronto.
so that one could go. That one could go either way. Again, Monty, you don't know what you're going to get. He played really well last game. Hopefully, if he plays well, we win the game. If he's shaky, we don't win. And so I'm worried about the game on Saturday. I'm definitely confident about the game on Sunday. So who are we playing on Sunday again? The
The New York,
Rangers.
yeah, the New York.
Rangers, yeah. Not worried about it. So the Canadians are going to win the game for sure on Saturday. Sorry, on Sunday. Dobes is going to be in nets on Sunday. So my prediction is Canadians will probably split, lose one, probably lose their next game against Toronto. Only because I'm lukewarm about Monty's consistency. I think, but he's surprised me before, and if he comes out and he plays really well, we win the game. So it all depends for me on Saturday about how Monty plays on Saturday. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm cautiously optimistic about both games, and I'll tell you why. So on Saturday, the Montreal Canadiens are playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. The last time the Toronto Maple Leafs came to Montreal, Samuel Montembeault played. He made like 40 stops or 37. I can't remember how many stops he made, and the Canadiens won 1-0. And now the Canadiens are playing some really good hockey. So I'm optimistic about Saturday night in Montreal. Also, Toronto is coming off 3 losses in a row. They did win tonight in overtime against the Devils, so they did win. But they've been fighting, not the best hockey. So that's why I think they have a good chance. And I think Montebo is playing some good hockey. And then on Sunday, the Montreal Canadiens are playing the Rangers. The Rangers are playing much better. I didn't look at what they did tonight, if they played. I don't even know if they played tonight, but they do play on Saturday night as well at home against Columbus. So this will be a back-to-back for them,
Right.
which means will they choose? It'll be interesting to see who they choose. Shersticken, was it whatever his name is, to play against the Canadiens. Will he play both games? Although Jonathan Quick's a pretty good goalie too, and so Montreal Canadiens are going to play the Rangers on back-to-back nights, but the Rangers are going to be back-to-back, and they're going to have to fly in from New York that night. So I'm going to give the nod to the Montreal Canadiens with Jacob, let's call him Jacob, Mr. Dryden.
Jacob Roy? Jacob Dryden? Roy?
Jacob Dryden Dobes.
Yeah.
Okay. So listen, I'm excited to watch the games. Listen, I'm very happy about the way the Montreal Canadiens are playing. I've got them winning both. I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't. They're 11-2-1, and they're playing good hockey. They're coming back home. They're playing teams that aren't as good as the last couple of teams they played. I think. So, let's see how it rolls. And so I'm on the bandwagon right now. Let it roll. I think there'll be a lull in this season moving forward. It's probably hopefully not going to start this weekend. I think it's going to start at another point. And so 2 wins for the Montreal Canadiens. I think the games are going to be close. I think both games are going to be close. There won't be more than a goal apart in either of those games. Will they be overtime? I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be close games again.
I actually think that I predict the Canadiens on Sunday win not by one goal. I think it's going to be something like 3-0 or 4-0.
Okay.
I think it's either going to be 3-0, 4-0, or 4-1. Something of that nature.
Let's hope Kreider doesn't jump into Dobes like he did Carey.
That could happen. I mean, the guy he's a nasty player.
All right.
That's for sure.
All right.
Anyhow.
We'll call it a night. So it was great night. Montreal Canadiens win 3-1 against the Dallas Stars. Another victory, 11-2-1. Jacob Dobes, 4-0, over a 9.59 save percentage. The next superstar of the Montreal Canadiens is Jacob Dobes, or is it Lane Hutson, or is it Demidov, or is it Cole Caulfield? It's a lot of players we don't know, so it's all good.
And let's just say this. We're going to start on this show. We're going to start saying that this is the road to the Stanley Cup.
There you go.
This is it. We're on the road to the Stanley Cup.
Ça sent la coupe. All
exactly.
right. On that note, that's it for us. That's it for Next Shift. Suzuki does not suck. Thanks, everyone. Bye.